Hey everyone, it's James from FunFoods, and today I'm going to show you how to make these giant Christmas cookies. Now this is part of a challenge video that I did with my friend Colin. He just started a YouTube channel. He came from TikTok where he makes a lot of amazing recipes and he's trying his hand at YouTube. I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description below, also one of those cards above. Go check him out. We're having a challenge to see who can make the best giant Christmas cookies. And if you think I made the best ones, put the hashtag FunFoodsWins, or if you think he did, put the hashtag ColinWins. So we're gonna tally it up and the loser will have to do something. We're thinking maybe a pie in the face. How about that? So the loser has to get a pie in the face. We'll see. But anyway, keep watching and I'll show you step by step how to make this. The first thing we need to do is start off by making our sugar cookie recipe. And to do that, this should make 2 of our giant cookies. And I'm using 4 sticks of butter. And these are not softened to room temperature, but I am cubing them up. I'm just cutting them up into cubes. All right, so when you get them cut up in cubes, you want to put it into a stand mixer. The stand mixer is going to make your life a lot easier, especially since we're working with butter that's cold, not softened at room temperature. Next, you want to add to that 2 cups of sugar. Now we're just going to bring in our stand mixer because I am not doing this by hand. Be sure to use the paddle attachment for this. You want to mix it up for about 2 minutes until it's nice and creamy. That butter and that sugar has become one. And you want to make sure you're scraping down the sides and also the paddle just to make sure everything gets mixed in really good. All right. So after your butter and sugar is creamed together nicely, what we're going to do is add to that 2 large eggs, 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And mix this up. When that's all mixed in together, what we're going to do is start adding our flour. I have 6 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, and we're going to add a little bit at a time to this as we mix it. So start with about a couple of cups. And make sure you turn it on slow at first. And you'll know it's getting close to done when your dough is almost a Play-Doh-like consistency and it pulls away from the sides on its own. Still have a little bit more flour put in here. All right, so our dough is done. Now we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, so now that our dough is done, we're gonna turn it out onto a non-stick surface so we can roll it out. We are gonna divide it into 2 pieces because I really wanna see if this makes at least 2 giant cookies. So it is a lot of dough. You can divide it any way you want, but I'm gonna divide it in half. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm gonna cover one that I'm not gonna use right now up in plastic. We're not gonna have it sit out for long, but just wanna cover that a little bit. And the one we're gonna use, we're gonna roll this out and flatten it down. So the largest pan I have that can fit in my oven is this pan, and I think the first one I'm gonna do is a candy cane shape. So we have to kind of measure it out, and I want it to be long ways like that. And let's roll it out to that size, and then we have to cut it up into the candy cane shape we want. And if you find your roller starts to stick, you can put a little bit of flour on it and that will help it from sticking. Now the easiest way to cut this is with a pizza cutter. You can use a knife and cut it, but we're gonna try this way. And I'm just gonna make a large candy cane. So that's my candy cane. Let's just take the trimmings around it off. We kind of just round it with our fingers just to make it look nice. All right, so now let's transfer this to our baking sheet, and I just have some baking paper on here. Take it upside down and flip the whole thing over. And at this point, if you want to put sugar on it and decorate it that way, you can do so. I'm going to decorate this with icing, so we have to cook it first or bake it first. Put it in the oven at 350 degrees for around 10 minutes. We're going to check it just to make sure, but make sure it fits in the oven. Now while that's in the oven baking, what we're going to do is come back to our other ball of dough that we have and roll this out. This one we're going to make an ornament, like a giant ornament. And here is the pan I'm going to use. That's going to be big enough to be a nice round ornament. Roll this out, try to make it as round as we can. And you only want it to be about 1/4 inch thick. Let's do it this way. All right, so on this, because an ornament also has like a little ball part on the top of the ornament, we're gonna cut that out too. I'm all doing this freehand, but if you have a stencil or something you'd like to do, you can of course do that. All right, so let's take a look and see how it's coming along. This is our candy cane. All right, so it took 17 minutes at 350 degrees for it to finish up. Now we're just gonna let it cool down completely before we move on to the next step. Next up, I think I have enough dough left over to do this whole gingerbread man. Now, of course, it's not gonna be using gingerbread. You can do that if you'd like, but we're just using the sugar cookie recipe for this. And it's just a baking pan by Wilton. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the description below where you can get a hold of one. But it's pretty simple. Looks like a gingerbread man. So I'm just going to take this in pieces and kind of flatten it down a little bit. And then just push it in and flatten it to the pan. And you just want to make sure it's nice and even all the way throughout. Put this in the oven, and it's been taking at least 15 to 17 minutes, but I don't know about this one. We'll check it after 15 and see how it looks. For the next step, we're gonna make some icing, some sugar cookie icing to go on this. And I'm starting out with a medium bowl here, and inside that I have 2 cups of powdered sugar. Next, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. We're also gonna add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water. We're gonna start with 1 tablespoon. And we're gonna mix this in, and we're just gonna do it until we get the consistency we want, and just add water a little at a time. Do about 1/2 of a tablespoon at a time. I'm gonna go ahead and put another whole tablespoon in here. And I might need to add another little bit of water, not much, but before I do that, I wanna add the flavoring. So what I have here is some peppermint extract, and I'm going to use a very little bit of this. It's very strong. Mix that in. So I'm going to need to add a little bit more water, but just a little bit, not even 1/2 of a tablespoon. And don't worry if you accidentally put too much water in there, it's okay. You can always add a little more powdered sugar to it, or you can just let it sit and it'll thicken up a bit in time. Now I'm gonna divide this into 2 separate bowls because I want 2 different colors. And there we go. A little bit of this goes a long way, so it doesn't look like I have a lot here, but it does go a long way. So this will be our white bowl. This is gonna be our red. Put a little bit of red food coloring in here. Mix that up. So after your cookie has cooled down completely, now what we're going to do is put the icing on there. We're going to start with the red icing and put that on there. In between there, we'll use the white, but we're going to do all the red first. And here we go. So I already put it in a piping bag and cut a hole. You can use a sandwich bag, it works fine. And I'm gonna leave a pretty good sized gap for the white, which we'll come back to in a little bit. And before I go on and do the rest, I'll probably do 2 more things of red. We're gonna cover the rest of this while it's still wet with some red sugar. So I have this little thing of red sugar. You can make your own, and I'll show you how to make some in just a moment. In case you don't wanna do this, just take some and let's sprinkle some red sugar on here. Make sure you do it while the icing's still wet so it'll hold to it. Sometimes I like to use a toothpick to spread this while it's still wet. We're gonna need some green food coloring, which I made another batch here. I'm gonna turn this one green, but also I told you I will show you how to make the green sugar. And I don't have any of that green sugar, so I gotta make my own. So let's make that right now. Some regular granulated sugar, put it in a little baggie, like a sandwich bag like I have here. And very important, make sure you use gel-based food coloring. Do not use water-based. If you use water-based, water does not mix with sugar. So it'll just dissolve the sugar. It won't work. So gel-based food coloring, put a couple drops of green in there because that's what color we're gonna do. And it won't look like much at first. Let all the air out of the bag and zip it up. And it's gonna take a little bit of work, but just start working this around in there with your fingers. And at first you're gonna be like, oh, this will never get done. I need more food coloring. No, you don't, trust me. A couple drops is all you need. You just have to work it with your fingers a bit. And there you have it, that's our green sugar that we're gonna use. All right, so now to decorate our ornament, what I'm gonna do, remember the cookie has cooled down completely. I'm gonna start with our green, and I wanna do this half green and that half red. And it doesn't have to be exact half, but I'm gonna do the outline first with the green. And I purposely did not put all the green in the piping bag because I want to flood this, and it's just easier to do with a spoon. Work it to the edges with a toothpick is the best way to do it. And while that's still wet, we're going to come to our green sugar that we just made and sprinkle it on there. Now this sugar is a little more fine than the other type of sugar you'd get at the store, but it works great. Much cheaper too. All right, now for the top part, just like the top part right here, I'm gonna make that white just to differentiate it from the rest of the stuff. And we're gonna do red for this part. Next up, we're going to take out our gingerbread man. Hopefully it comes out without breaking. Oh, that's perfect. Let's do an outline of him. We'll do an outline of white. So I have 3 really cool giant Christmas cookies. Well, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching me make these giant Christmas cookies. It was a lot of fun doing this, especially the challenge that we had between me and Colin. Let me know who did best by hitting FunFoods wins hashtag or the hashtag Colin wins. And we're gonna see who wins, who made the best giant Christmas cookies. So this is a lot of fun doing this. Go click on the link right there and it'll take you right to Colin's video. Be sure to use the title. I can't talk. What am I trying to say? That's all mixed in well, and while that's still wet, we're gonna come to our